So I'm going to do a movie review this evening. This is for a fantastic film series that I watched a couple of weeks back, and just getting around to doing the movie reviews at the moment. So part one, this is the part one review of Fear Street. This one is focusing on the first movie, which is 1994. The film is starring Kiana Madeira, who plays Dina, Olivia Scott Welsh, who plays Sam, and one of the other main actors in this as well. He's been in quite a few things recently. Is Ashley Zuckerman. He's playing the sheriff Nick Good in this, and he's Ashley Zuckerman. He's recently been. I seen he's played Robert Langdon, the Tom Hanks character from the Dan Brown movies. So some pretty big actors in this, and just to go into a little bit about what the movie is. So this is a trilogy of movies. They based off books by the famous author R.L Stine. He, if you remember, is the author of the famous Goosebumps books from when we were kids. So he's been writing this entire sort of Fear Street series, come back all the way through to the 90s, maybe even earlier. He does do a lot of kids sort of horror books, R.L. Stine, some of them more grown up themes as well. But I will be honest, I thought these were brilliant adaptations of the books. Really captured the sort of the theme of R.L. Stine as well. It felt in the best possible way, very sort of Stephen King-ish as well, if that's the best compliment I can give him. But this particular first movie, 1994, when I saw the poster for it, and I saw the first opening 2 or 3 minutes, it is anybody who grew up in the 90s or the 80s or so would love the original Scream with Drew Barrymore. Will love the opening scene for this movie, and that sort of character of the Skullface killer as well is very reminiscent to the Ghostface killer from Scream. But I think they do tap into that sort of nostalgia a little bit in this film series. But it's well earned. It's a really good premise. So this is a brilliant start to a film trilogy. Looking at some of the information I read around the movie, it was supposed to have come out in cinemas, but apparently the pandemic, pretty much wrecked any hope of these 3 movies coming out either on subsequent years or being distributed at intervals to over 1 year. And in the end, Netflix had to pick up the distribution for all 3 movies. But actually, I probably would say that this has actually done a lot of service, because you've got a lot more eyeballs on the movie as well now, and it has got a lot of praise. Particularly this first movie has got some really good reviews. Majority reviews are like high 80s, 80%, giving it some good feedback, and the audience rating as well is around 70 to 80%. So this is a really strong start to the series. So what is this film about? So it's based on the R.L. Stine books, as I've said. So effectively, the opening of the movie, you've got this shopping centre in a place called Shadyside. And this town, it is not unusual for there to be, like a crazy serial killer or a really odd type of massacre to be going on. And that's just sort of one of these things that's written into the lore of that particular town. Very reminiscent of Stephen King and certain, like Castle Rock and these types of places in the Stephen King universe, But in the movie, we've got the opening scene. The Skullface killer is going on a rampage. He gets killed in the end killed by the sheriff Nick Good, who we'll come to know a little bit later on in the film series. And we then see the memorial for the victims, and we're introduced to the 2 main characters of Dina and Sam. So they're both a couple, 2 girls as a couple. The Sam is more of a sort of a straight girl, maybe experimenting, and she's quite shy. She's not, would say she's probably not out, especially to her parents. It's sort of hinted at that she's not comfortable being openly gay. So her girlfriend Dina, there's a little bit of aggravation between those two there, but they do tend to make up as the film goes on. Just where you have a fight break out between the two rival towns in this story, which is Shadyside and Sunnyvale. You tend to see the Sunnyvale side is the Sunnyvale is a lot more affluent, no trouble at all on that side of town, whereas the shady side of things is where the killers are coming out. Maybe things are not as flowing as they should, and a little bit more hard on the times as well. But as the film develops, there's an assumption that the killers are. I think they said that one of the killers of the Skullface killers, Ryan Torres, is. I think either had a partner, or something happens in the movie where there is a chase scene between. That's right. They're chasing the bus, so the bus of the Shady Side is going back after the vigil, and they throw this big sort of keg at the Sunnyvalers who are chasing them in the car, and Sam, the girlfriend, is in the car, and when Dina throws this sort of keg, the car veers off the road. They go down into a forest area. There's a big crash. As they go down into this tree, Dina has a nose. She's got a nosebleed, sort of spontaneously, and as she bleeds on the ground, on the earth, she starts to get visions of this sort of this witch character from back in the 1600s, early sort of colonial times. This female witch, and she starts to get all these visions about what's going on, and a little bit freaked out by this. They take the kids who are recovering from the crash back to the hospital. Now, this is where things turn a little bit now, where they start to sort of share the information about what they've seen, reading up about what this witch was. But in the hospital, then amazing as it is that the Skullface killer, Ryan Torres, comes back and ends up killing one of the main characters in the movie, and so you've got a band of 4 survivors there, then trying to run away, which is Sam, Dina, Kate, and Peter. I think they're 4 friends, and not only is it the Skullface killer, but there's a female serial killer who tries to get Peter to be seduced by her singing voice, and he pretty much tries to outrun her. There's another killer then, which is a nod to the Jason Voorhees character from Friday the 13th as well. So this killer, is more so in the second Fear Street in 1978. So, but they go on the run, pretty much trying to find out what the hell's going on. They assume then, from all the evidence they've collected together, that by bleeding on the ground of where Sarah Fear, as they now know, is the witch from the 1600s, she was a witch, and there's always been this sort of law that there was this sort of evil, this witch who had sort of bewitched or put a hex on the town of Shadyside, and they start to sort of believe that is actually the case here, because you're getting a couple of people who are returning to the dead who should be dead, coming around trying to kill them, and there's direct link now between Dina and Sarah Fear for having that nosebleed and that connection, and then bleeding on the ground. Anyway, the film develops as they try to seek a way to try and either get away or kill these serial killers. There is no way to kill them. These are being driven by an evil force, and they start to investigate the previous times that this had happened, where somebody had escaped one of these serial killers. They come across a lady by the name of C. Berman, and whilst this character in particular is not heavily involved in this first movie, they will be in the second one in 1978. Now, this C. Berman character tells the kids, listen, there's no way that you can defeat these serial killers and this evil, manifested evil. The only reason that she was able to escape it in going back to 1978 was purely because she died and then was resuscitated after. So that sort of connection and that avenging of the witch had occurred with her death. Being resuscitated after seems to have broken that link between her and the witch. So Dina has decided that Sam has to die. She's got a connection with the witch, and they're going to kill her and then bring her back then by CPR and EpiPens and adrenaline shots and stuff like that. We do start to see then the last sort of say confrontation between these serial killers. You know, that unfortunately you do see a couple of the characters, Kate and Peter, sacrificing themselves and dying. To try and protect their friends, to try and break this curse. And unfortunately, as the film turns out towards the end, they do manage to kill, in inverted commas, Sam, and Dina is able to bring her back. So that sort of relationship blossoms towards the end, and they grow stronger through the adversity of it, which is brilliant. And in the end, they are a couple. They're both, comfortable with what they are and who they are. More so, Sam then is able to sort of be proud of who she is and tell her parents, tell her mother in particular, who wasn't that happy with her early on in the movie, And so everything looks quite rosy. The sheriff Nick Good, pretty much says he's going to wrap this all up. It's kind of like assumed that all of these serial killer and massacre events in Shadyside tend to get mopped up by the police, and it's just part of the way things are done. No reason given at all. It happened with the Ryan Torres skull-face killer, and now it's going to be all of this sort of this stuff was going to be blamed on Kate and Simon, unfortunately, because they were both drug dealers in the movie as well, both quite hedonistic. They were going to be blamed for what had gone on in this movie. So that does end for them on a sour note, and because they obviously, the characters themselves, didn't do anything wrong like that. But then we do start to see a bit of a peek behind the curtain as to that character of the sheriff Nick Good and what he's willing to do in order to protect, quote unquote, protect the town. And we learn a little bit more about that in the later movies. But I thought overall this is a really, really strong effort. This is the first movie in the trilogy. I enjoyed this probably more than any of the movies in the trilogy. I may be a little bit biased just because there was a lot of nostalgia and a lot of, particularly with the Scream nostalgia as well in this one. So, maybe I'm a little bit more biased than I was for the 1978 movie, but this one was fantastic. The action was good. I love the sort of overarching narrative and plot of the entire trilogy as well. It does give you license to have all these sort of homages, you could say, to famous horror villains. Like the camp killer is clearly a Jason Voorhees homage, as is the Skullface killer to the killer from Scream as well. So this, they are a bit of a nod to pop culture, and a lot of people, have enjoyed this movie, and like I say, Netflix have got a lot of eyeballs on it, and the reviews are pretty strong for it. I just thought that the young cast of it was excellent. Really, they were, there was quite a lot of high stakes in the movie, um, and the finale didn't disappoint for me either. I didn't think at all. You do get that sense of, like, when you watch the later movies, that formula of this movie leads on into the second and the third. The only way I can describe it is kind of like that sort of formula you get with, if you watch the Back to the Future three movies back to back, you would see that formula of what makes it enjoyable. It is a little bit samey, but it's enjoyable, that, repetition in a little sense. But I thought one of the more interesting things of the movie was the Sarah Fear Witch character. Um, there was an awful lot given away in this first movie, and I'm glad of that, because I think that, sometimes, you're seeing it a little bit more at the moment, where, because, stories about, say, heroes or anti-heroes, they've been done to death now. You're seeing stories, and particularly movies and TV shows, focusing on, quote-unquote, the villains. So Disney are rolling everything out like this at the moment. They're doing movies about Cruella de Vil and Maleficent, and that's because people have seen the good side of these characters, like Sleeping Beauty and the 101 Dalmatians. They've seen all that. It's the same as the Joker movie. We've seen the Joker, fight Batman and be the bad guy, whereas that film, albeit is a brilliant movie with Joaquin Phoenix, it is. I think that's a little bit of an outlier, but um, it's good to have a. What I'm trying to get at is it's good to have a villain, and good to have that sort of negative entity, that underlying threat through the entire movie or series, and not have to justify why they do the things they do. Um, the best example I could give is the original trilogy of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. So Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and Red Dragon. There's no. We know that there is a reason why he likes to do the way he likes to be a cannibal, and he's psychotic, and he's highly intellectual, but we're not really given the sort of the dots to join up from A to Z. I think in some of the characters, particularly in older horror, like the Michael Myers character from Halloween, do we really want to know down to the minutiae what drives that guy to be a killing machine, or do we just want to sort of enjoy the movies that he's in? Maybe change the setting a little bit. The formula still works, and just write better stories to have him in there, because I think when you drill down deep into the minutiae of what these characters are, especially the villains and the bad guys, they don't really seem threatening thereafter. So that's why I think this film did really well, just to keep that distance between the Seraphim Witch character. It didn't give a lot away, which is brilliant. But yeah, overall, I mean, I thought this was a superb film, and like I say, the first part in a brilliant trilogy. I will give my rating for this one. I think overall, I'm going to give this one a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. This is one of the more modern, youthful horror movies I've seen, and it didn't disappoint whatsoever. This is a brilliant trilogy, and it's off to a good start. So 4 out of 5 for Fear Street Part 1, 1994. And yeah, if you want to check it out, it is on Netflix at the moment. It's got some decent ratings on IMDb, and like I said, this on